they are the ones also who are praising Donald Trump. They're not looking to their own leader and saying thank you for looking after us. So I think Benjamin Netanyahu is now facing an even more complicated future than he has done in recent years.
With me now in the studio is Michael Evans, former defence editor at The Times. Hello, Mike.
Hello, good morning.
Thank you for being with us. Donald Trump has arrived in Israel this morning. He's going to address the country's parliament pretty shortly. This comes as all 20 remaining living hostages held by Hamas have been released. Israel is due to free nearly 2,000 Palestinians in return. Mike, there's obviously a lot of joy today in Israel and in Gaza too. How confident should we be that this is the end of the conflict? Where do you see us in a month?
I think, well, the first thing it would be good, I think, to be optimistic at least, that maybe this is the grand moment when the Middle East is going to get sorted out. But that is being extremely optimistic. We're in a very, very early stage. The best thing is today, right? The 20 hostages have been released. The 26 others who are presumed to be dead will be released in due course. But there is no particularly strong, concrete framework for the next 2 or 3 or 4 weeks. We know there are phases to this project, which is fine, but no one has really signed up to a framework which will guarantee peace for the future. This is sort of Trump bash politics, if you like, in which he has set out his vision, which is fine, for Gaza and for the Middle East. And it's really up to all the other players in this very complicated sort of puzzle that he has produced to agree to it and to negotiate a proper future. It may happen. We all have to be hopeful that it will.
I mean, look, obviously it's a hell of an achievement to end any war, and particularly this war, particularly with such bitterness and division on the ground. In the kind of sort of broader historical context, Donald Trump's talking about this as, the greatest moment in the Middle East for 3,000 years. How would we compare this to, things like the Oslo Accords, when it looked like peace were on the cards in the past?
First of all, the era are different. They are completely different. But when the Oslo Accords were being negotiated and when they were signed in 93 and 95, there was one particular thing which was embedded in that particular framework, which you don't have here today. And that was the notion, the idea, the vision that there would be a two-state solution. In other words, you'd have a Palestine state living alongside an Israeli, alongside Israel, and that they would be survive together, if you like. That concept is sort of here in the Trump 20-point plan, but it's not embedded in it. It's not the final thing that he really wants. So I think the main difference is that the other one was much more structured. And of course, there was a famous signing between Yitzhak Rabin, the Israeli prime minister at the time, and Yasser Arafat, the PLO chairman, outside the White House. And that sort of set the scene for what was hoped to be a new future for the Middle East and for Israel and for the Palestinians in particular. It didn't work out. There were lots of reasons for that, one of which was that the extreme right in Israel didn't want it. Yitzhak Rabin was assassinated. The PLO was all over the place and corrupt and didn't really know what they were doing, and they didn't get what they wanted. So basically it failed. All these sort of failures we could have today. But right now, I think one has to say, with Donald Trump in the White House, using the sort of charm, if you like, but also, as I referred to before, as bash politics, I think there is a chance that all the players in this very complex part of the world could come together.
So one of those players is obviously Hamas. What should we expect is the future for Hamas? Because they haven't quite agreed to disarm. They obviously have some degree of control on the ground, hence even their ability to return all 20 hostages, because they weren't themselves holding all of them. Is this the end of Hamas, or is Hamas likely to sort of evolve into something slightly different?
I suspect it will evolve into something. Under the 20-point plan, they are supposed to disarm. They are supposed to receive, they can go into exile, and they cannot possibly rule Gaza anymore. They haven't signed up to that. There are elements of Hamas who already come out to say they will not disarm. Disarmament is the next key part of it. If they don't disarm, Israel will not withdraw from Gaza. They will just probably continue the war. So they have to disarm. How this disarmament takes place, I don't know. There are all kinds of historical precedents for this. Whether they can fall into that or not, I don't know. I'm thinking, for example, of Northern Ireland. I mean, there was some row yesterday about the Brits claiming they'd played a role in this in this great move. I mean, I don't know one way or the other. The Americans say they didn't. But to be honest, they could play a role in the disarmament process because of Northern Ireland. Now, I worked in the Pentagon for 3 years for the Times, and I can't tell you the number of times that American used to come up to me and say, American military and officials used to come up and say, you Brits, you always go on about Northern Ireland. You can't, that's old hat. It's not. But actually, what was achieved after the Good Friday Agreement was pretty successful. But I have to say, it took 7 years for the disarmament process to be finally completed, by which time the IRA had handed over something like, I can't remember, 1,000 rifles, 2 tons of Semtex and whatever. Is that going to happen here? Are we going to have a formal process in which Hamas hands over all its weapons? If they do, they will only do so to Arab Muslim organizations. They will not do so to the Americans or to the Brits or to anyone in the West. And this is what is part of the 20-point agreement, that it will be a Arab Muslim force who will go in to help with security and also to take part in the disarmament process. Let's see whether that happens.
Turning to that spat over the British role. So the Education Secretary, Bridget Phillipson, she said yesterday that Britain had played a big role. Mike Huckabee, the US ambassador to Israel, called her delusional. This morning, Steve Witkoff has said, no, Britain actually was immensely helpful. What should we take away from this? Firstly, did we have a big role? I mean, Jonathan Powell particularly has been praised for a role. And what should we read in the fact that Witkoff is keen to sort of slap down Huckabee and say, no, actually, the Brits were helpful? That would suggest that we are playing some kind of role that is valued that they don't want to jeopardise.
I agree. I think, remember, that Europe has played a role from the very beginning in this thing. I know it's all been Trump, but actually Europe has played a major role in every way, not just Britain, but France and Italy and others. I think Britain has probably played a reasonable role behind the scenes. They've got all the experience. They've got some good people. Jonathan Powell certainly has a vast amount of experience in dealing with complicated diplomatic negotiations. He was involved, of course, by the way, in the Northern Ireland peace process. So I think probably behind the scenes, people like that have been playing a role, and obviously it was in the interests of the British government to sort of highlight they have played a role, and Americans don't really like that because they want all the kudos to go to Donald Trump.
Turning to the plans for reconstruction in Gaza, presumably that's quite a long way away, because before there can be reconstruction, there has to be disarmament, because you're not going to get sort of contractors and firms piling into Gaza while it's still sort of run by Hamas. What prospects are there for putting Gaza back together anytime soon?
Yeah, we had this problem, of course, in Iraq because they put in lots of contractors to start reconstructing Iraq. And basically they had the same problem. There was a new insurgency and they didn't want to do anything. They didn't have the security backing to do the work. So to a certain extent, of course, you're right. In Gaza, they've got to have a stable environment in order to start reconstruction. And I think that would be a long way away, even if it takes a year or 6 months or even 3 weeks, whatever it is, for Hamas to disarm. There's a huge amount of arms in Gaza, not necessarily all in the hands of Hamas. There's lots of other arms that's been floating around. Israel, for example, has been arming various anti-Hamas militias. We saw them that erupt yesterday in Gaza. So it will take a long time, and I think we've got a conference going on in this country at the moment, a 3-day conference, which is aimed at discussing reconstruction. We're talking about $50 billion worth of money required. So it's going to take a long time, and I don't think that's even going to begin for probably a year or so.
Finally, Mike, what about Benjamin Netanyahu? Is this the beginning of the end for him?
Well, the extraordinary thing about today, of course, is that Donald Trump has arrived in Israel and he's received a hero's welcome. All the plaudits have gone to Donald Trump. None of them have gone to Benjamin Netanyahu. Okay, the hostages have been released, but the Israeli families, of course, the hostage families will be hugely relieved. But they are the ones also who are praising Donald Trump. They're not looking to their own leader and saying thank you for looking after us. So I think Benjamin Netanyahu is now facing an even more complicated future than he has done in recent years. It doesn't mean to say that he will fall, but I think he is already extremely unpopular in the country, and this will not help. And I think once Trump and all the sort of Trumpian fun and games have left Israel, then I think he will be left with a very, very difficult situation to face.
Mike Evans, former defence editor at The Times, thanks very much indeed for being with us. Pleasure to speak to you.